What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Voiceovers Podcast. I'm 24K Logan.
Cameron going mine.
Now, of course, it's no secret what happened this past weekend at AT&T Stadium when the Dallas Cowboys lost to the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, as Dallas Cowboy fans, it's very heartbreaking. Easily the most heartbreaking loss that I've witnessed in my 14 years as a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm sure that you could say the same. But we're going to talk briefly about the loss. But the main thing that we're going to focus on in today's video is what is the possibilities moving forward of this organization. Obviously, the last time the Cowboys played in the NFC Championship, let alone the Super Bowl, was 1995. So that's already, I don't want to say it's terrible in itself. Well, actually, it is. Considering the organization that we're talking about, considering the standard of America's team, there's a reason why I did that, but considering the standard of the Dallas Cowboys, that is terrible that they haven't been to a NFC title game, let alone a Super Bowl, since 1995. What was your overall thoughts and reaction to this game? Because it just felt like this team was not in sync, that they were uncoordinated, off tempo from the start.
It was our year, man. It was our year.
It definitely wasn't.
But
clearly,
in all seriousness, I mean, if you really want something in life, you'll go after it, And what they did was they went after it. Just because they failed, we shouldn't kick them down for it. But because at the end, it was really showing their potential. But I mean, I've never been like a part of a sports team, but coordination is important. Communication is important. They have they've been practicing since the summer. They practice every week after every game. They have records. They watch film. They see these things. So they should have had no reason to lose to the Packers, who was 8-8, 8-9 and 8?
9-8, if I'm correct.
Versus an 11-14, were they?
12-5.
12-5, okay. So there should have been no reason for them to lose. So when you out there on that field, with how they started it off, Packers scoring, the pick six really threw them back. So at the end of the day, I feel like, because Cowboys fans are heavily hated, Cowboys in general are heavily hated. So when they lost like that, that's why so many people are talking about the embarrassment and everything, which is understandable. But your favorite team loses, how would you react? How the Cowboys lost? So it's just like that, I truly don't think that there's any bad players on the team, because they have really the best offense this year, in my opinion. CeeDee Lamb been going off, Dak Prescott been going off.
They might have had the best in personnel, but from a statistic standpoint, I think it was Miami. But I see where you're going. Because you're talking a first-team All-Pro in CeeDee Lamb, a second-team All-Pro in Dak Prescott. You're talking one of the greatest linemen of our generation in Tyron Smith. I mean, that offense was stacked, but there was a lack of a run game. I do think that Tony Pollard is a decent running back, but a lot of people don't want to admit it. The Cowboys are desperately missing that 1-2 punch that they had with Ezekiel Elliott. Clearly, Ezekiel Elliott is not the same running back that he was in 2016 or 2017. However, he was going to get the 1 yard or the 2 yards that they needed in crunch time. He was a red zone threat. He was a great blocker, easily a better blocker than Pollard. When you have a combination of speed and power with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, I think that would have been a better recipe for them. Or if Dallas had went out and got a Derrick Henry, but we're going to get into stuff like that later on. Yeah. One thing that I noticed in this video, one thing that I noticed in the very beginning of the game, I believe it was at the end of the very first possession when Dallas was on offense, and as CeeDee Lamb and the entire offense was walking off the field, CeeDee was looking very frustrated, and Mike McCarthy had to come and talk to him. And that right there kind of set the tone for the game, that I feel like, because it's almost like your two top guys on offense, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, obviously, not in sync. It's like that chemistry that we know that they have was gone in that game or in that moment. And that set the offense, just completely away. And the defense, bro, they're playing zone coverage on 3rd and 1 short yardage situations. They're not stacking the box. Jordan Love is lined up under center. You're not playing against the run. You're playing against the pass on every play is what it looked like. And even when they were playing zone coverage, they got spaced out sideline to sideline and completely left the middle open. There were way too many wide open deep passes in this game. It's just unexcusable. And I'm not questioning Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator because we know how good of a coordinator that he is and how much he means to this team. And he has been to a Super Bowl as a head coach. But when you make some of the decisions that he was making, the schemes or the lack of schemes, there was no adjustments at halftime, it looked like, because even when it looked like for a second that Dak was bringing the Cowboys back in some way, somehow, even though that was a long shot, they wouldn't have had a shot anyway because of the defense constantly letting Green Bay drive down the field on them. And then it's embarrassing because you got all these veteran guys on Dallas's defense, both sides of the ball, but particularly the defense. Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker, Deron Bland, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons. These guys are veterans. And they're letting, if I'm not mistaken, the average of the Green Bay Packers offense was like 24 years old. So you got 1-2 year players driving the ball down on some 5-6 year players. And I mean, I get it. Green Bay was the underdogs. They had nothing to lose, so they were hungry. They wanted it more than Dallas. At least that's what we saw on Sunday. But you just don't do things like that at your home stadium. Every team this past weekend that was in the wild card defended their home turf except Dallas. And that's what makes the loss even worse. You lose in your home stadium, and then you lose it in this manner. Unexcusable. Which leads me to my next point, or my next question. What type of changes do you think is coming for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason? There's been a lot of rumors about the possibility of Bill Belichick coming in to coach the Cowboys. Some people don't want Dak there no more, which I think is ridiculous. I'm not excusing Dak Prescott's performance because the 2 interceptions were critical, but when your defense is getting pushed down the field damn near every play, it doesn't matter who you have at quarterback in a situation like that. So I'm not going to put too much of the blame on Dak.
I feel like, okay, so what's your opinion on Jerry Jones, like as a whole, and what he's been doing the past however long he's been?
Jerry Jones, as an owner, as a businessman, is a genius. Let's not forget that he has 3 rings with this organization, or he has put together teams that were able to get 3 Super Bowl rings in the 1990s. Let's not forget about that. But one thing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel the same way, with the Cowboys being worth $9.5 billion, $9.4 billion, being worth $4 billion more than, I believe, the Yankees, the Lakers, being worth more than the Knicks. With all of that combined, it's almost like Jerry Jones always wants to be in the spotlight. There needs to be a lot of humbling conversations and humbling decisions in that organization this offseason. It should have started a long time ago, but to lose in that fashion, and we can't put all of this on Jerry Jones either because he's not a player, he's not a coach, but he played a huge part in assembling the squad that we have in front of us, because everything that goes through that organization, it goes through Jerry, which makes sense because he is the owner and the general manager. But with Jerry, you bring in a Bill Belichick, that's going to be very interesting because Bill Belichick is an old school, no nonsense coach. that instills discipline in his players. And he wants to do things his way, at least from the coaching standpoint. Do we know if Jerry Jones is actually going to allow that? That's where the confusion and the ego bumping comes into play. That's how I feel about Jerry Jones.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He made whatever decision he makes, whether you like Jerry Jones or not, he gonna make his decision at the end of the day. So only time will tell. So I don't know what's gonna happen. They gonna add anybody, they gonna fire anybody, who knows?
Some people are definitely going away.
Probably, but that somebody from any of those players.
I do think that Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons are guaranteed to stay. CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, if I'm correct, are just now getting out of their rookie contracts. Dak Prescott, let's be real here, he was definitely in the MVP conversation, and it was well deserved. Now, obviously, after his performance on Sunday, I think that conversation died instantly, but you cannot tell me that Dak Prescott is not the quarterback of the future for this organization. At least for the foreseeable future, he is definitely their quarterback. You are not going to replace Dak Prescott like that. Dallas doesn't have a high enough draft pick for one. They owe him too much money. And Dak Prescott is the first Dallas Cowboys quarterback in history to lead the NFL in touchdown passes in a single season. So I think that has to account for something. And he was not the sole reason why they lost the game on Sunday.
It wasn't. It's just coordination, Some people lose, some people win. But at the end of the day, when you're out in the field, you got to have coordination. You got to visualize your opponent, see how they playing. You watch that film, see which players they specifically going for. You seen how they was on Parsons, making sure he didn't get to their quarterback. It's little things like that, So they got to all work together. They got to read that field,
Him and CeeDee were not in sync throughout that entire first half, really, but especially that first drive. I'm like, this is not the Dak Prescott and the CeeDee Lamb that I know, that we know.
Yeah, and so, in the heat of the moment, all that practice and stuff, it kind of flies out the window, and you got to perform how But if you're good at adapting, improvising, you're going to be straight, but whatever happens, you just got to, like I said, third down and out, you got to start doing that more. One thing that a lot of teams should just start going for, getting in field goal range at least, so if it messes up, field goal without, and boom, play good defense. But it's easier said than done. I don't play football personally, but you really got to read your opponents at the end of the day, see what you're going up against.
Exactly. If I could give a message to the Dallas Cowboys, whether it's the players, the coaches, the staff, whatever, if I can give a message to the Dallas Cowboys, there needs to be some serious soul searching if there hasn't been none already. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, this is football, but you guys are professionals. And I know that having a star on your helmet comes with a price. It's almost like you got a monkey on your back, especially when you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys in Dak Prescott. He's always going to have attention on him no matter what, and Dak is a hell of a guy. But there needs to be some soul searching throughout that entire organization, and they need to really humble themselves and bring themselves back down to ground zero and get back to the basics, because there's just no excuse for what happened on Sunday. I could see if it was a hard-fought game to the wire, even then we would have been mad, but it would have been embarrassing, especially if you had just got outplayed by Green Bay. But not only did you get outplayed by Green Bay, quite frankly, you got your ass whooped. I don't want to be so vulgar, but that's literally what happened. There's no way around it. Yeah. There needs to be some soul searching. They need to look at themselves in the mirror, and it's going to be some changes. Some people are going to leave. People that we have, praised over the last couple seasons, some of them are going to be walking. Some of the top players might even have to take a pay cut.
Hey man, we'll wrap it there, man. Shout out to man Skip Bayless, Next year's gonna be our year for sure, but you know, we got more content dropping on the way. Please hit that subscribe button, man. We almost at 200 subscribers. You know, we got started a year ago almost, and you know, we've been.
And give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, please. Please leave a comment. You know, we love reading our comments. You know, drop a comment in the video, and we'll see y'all in the next video.